creating a site plan, when you're looking at your first floor plan or whatever, if you just pan down to site plan, and clicked on that, you would not have what I have on the screen because I've already created a partial site plan here. But I have a site plan created, and you'll notice that my building is setting at an angle that it wasn't at on the first floor plan, right? If I go back to the first floor plan, it's setting this way. When I go down to my site plan, I have it setting this way, okay? So when I put the site plan in, I've set it to true north, which is, when you're in site plan, that's one of your options here under orientation, to set it to true north or to project north, and project north is where your building normally sits. Okay, so that's where it's sitting when you're looking at floor plans and so forth. But when you start creating a site plan, you're probably going to have your building sitting on a piece of property that doesn't necessarily sit exactly straight north and south, correct? So that's what we're going to be seeing here. So we'll be putting in property lines, and we'll be putting in the curb lines and creating streets and so forth. And so this is just kind of part one of getting it to this point. So I'm going to go back and start over on this site plan and walk you through this. So we're going to start over this then, starting out with a new, to create a new site plan. And I've handed out a site plan sheet to you. You have that in front of you. When I go to my site plan this time, you'll notice that all I'm seeing is the building, and it's setting project north. Now I could go over here and I could go to click on true north and try set it to true north, and nothing happens, right? Because I don't know what true north is yet. So at this point I'll just set it back to project north, apply that. And I need to put my site plan on it. Well, as you can see in front of you, you have a piece of property with, first off, we're going to put in the property lines, which are the phantom lines that you see in there. So I'm going to go up to, at the top, I'm going to go across to massing and site. Click on that. And over here you see something called property lines. So I'm going to click on property lines. And we have two options. We can create it by a sketch. So if you're going to create it by sketch, that would mean you don't have any pins located. You're just going to create a piece of property and so forth. But we're going to do it by distance and bearing. So click on that, and this will pop up. So now we're going to start in the on the handout that you have there in the lower left corner, and we're going to start with a distance of 200 feet. Is that correct? So up here we'll just type in 200 feet. And we're going, according to the distance and direction, we're going north 59 degrees. (31 minutes). And 42 seconds east, correct? Okay, we don't have to do anything else there because it is a line, it's not a radius. And if it was a radius, we'd have to know whether it's right or left, but we don't have a radius. So then we're going to insert a new one. And from that point, we're going 180 feet. This time we're going south. If you click the down arrow, you can change it to south. And it is 30 degrees, 27 minutes, and 14 seconds. And it's still east, so that's okay. We'll go insert a new one. We're going 200 feet again. This time we're going south, 59 degrees, 31 minutes, and 42 seconds. And this time it's west. Okay, we'll insert a new one. And we're going 180 feet. We're going north. We're going 30 degrees, 27 minutes, and 14 seconds. And it's west. Okay, so we just entered the information that was on the sheet you have in front of you. And this happens to be a nice rectangular lot, so everything is right angles, right? So everything is nice and perfect here. If we had a curve or something we were following, we'd enter some radiuses and so forth, but we don't have that. So in this case, we will just say OK, and it creates this lot for us, and it's on your cursor. So I'm just going to place it here around my building in some place, and now I'm going to have to rotate my building to fit that lot, depending on whether I want the front facing this side or the front facing the 180 side or the 200 side is really kind of up to you. In my case, I'm going to face it toward the 180 side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, if we go in here and we see this little circle thing in the middle, if you clicked on that, it does give you some information. It's kind of hard to read. No matter how far you zoom in, the text never changes. But it has some information here, and if we knew the exact angle, we could probably rotate it by that method. Okay, so I've got my building in here, but my property is sitting not the way I want. I don't have my building sitting on the property the way I want it. If I go to an angular dimension and dimension from, in this case, the edge of my roof to the property line over here, I find that angle of 59.53 degrees. So then if I go into this thing and click on this, angle to true north, if I click on those zeros and I type in 59.53 and click off of that somewhere, it's going to tell me that that dimension that I just put in there is no longer in the right spot, and that's okay. I can delete that dimension. But now you'll see my building is in line with my property, and I can simply move my property in relationship to the building. I still don't have the setback right, probably, but at least I have my building in line with one of my property lines, right? If I go back to my first floor plan, it's still sitting right. If we do that correctly, the building on your first floor plan should be right, and if you go back to your site plan, the building should be sitting in line with the property. Now, the one thing that we have to make sure we did before we rotated that was to make sure that the orientation was setting true north before you did that rotation process there. Now that it's sitting true north, if I switch it back to project north, it's going to rotate my property and everything with it. And that's a good thing because we want to put other things on this property, right? We want to put some garages on it and things like that, and we don't want to be trying to work off of those angles of true north. So I'm back to setting it to project north once I've rotated it. The other problem I've had with this in the past is that if I want to set my building in relationship to the property line and I go to try to put a dimension on it, and I dimension from, I got so much on here right now, I should probably turn some things off. So first off, I think I will go to my visual graphics. Turn off my roof and the view. Okay, so now all I have is my building. And then I can dimension from my building to my property line, and it won't let me. So I've had that trouble before where I can't dimension from my building, but what I found is that we have to actually put a line on here. So I'll just go to a detail line. I'm just going to draw a line from here to here. I'm going to take that line, I'm going to offset it, whatever my setback might be. And in this case, it's 25 feet. So should be an offset. 5 feet. Okay, so now I've got this line that's where I want my building to be, and I'm going to move that line over here a ways. And then I can move my property line and that line. Dimensioning this isn't as easy as I'd like it to be, but what I have to do is I have to go to annotate, draw a detail line where I want the dimension to be, and in this case I want it to be somewhere along here. Then I want to click on that line, which is right on the property line, and offset it 25 feet, because that's what the setback requirement is for this building. And then I would offset that line. Then I'd make sure that that line is on the edge of the building where I want to dimension to, and then I can dimension from that line I put in there to the new line that I've offset, and I would have that distance. So it's really moving the property line to where your building is. If you start moving your building, keep in mind you are moving your building in other views, so you don't want to do that necessarily. So on this side over here, I want to go 25 feet off of this property line as well. So I'll go annotate, draw a detail line on that one. Click on that detail line, offset it 25 feet. Okay, and then I can dimension that. Oh, it did move. So that should be 25 feet. So looking at the handout that I've given you, it says on the bottom part, it says front yard setback on 15th Avenue and 7th Street is 25 feet. On 15th Avenue or 7th Avenue is 25 feet. On either one of them. Correct. They're both front yards. Okay. Anytime you have a property line adjacent to a street, it's a front yard. Okay. Then it says the side yard setback is 15 feet. So on the other end of the building, going to the other property line can be 15 feet. In this case, it's going to be more than 15 feet. And then the rear yard setback is 25 feet for the main building to the rear property line, unless it's an outbuilding. And the outbuildings that we're going to have on this property are going to be the garages. So the garages can be within 5 feet of the property line. So when we start putting garages on this plan, they'll be in the backyard area, and they can be from the property line 5 feet off the property line. Okay, so I'm going to stop this video right now, and we'll continue with a new video on developing the site plan farther tomorrow. In which case we'll start by putting the streets in, the sidewalks, and so forth, and then we'll get into placement of garages and parking and other things on this property line.